Welcome back to Island Tea with your faves, Kevon and Azem, featuring Jade, Gwen Johnson. And it is time to jump into Espresso / Eat Local with the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you guys doing?
Well enough.
I ask because there has been so much talk about tourism of the past few months. I can't even imagine what's on your guys' plate and all the decisions I have to make, the meetings. I could imagine it must be I could imagine there's meeting upon meeting upon meeting upon meeting. But I'm really happy that you guys are here and coming to talk to us about some of the developments moving forward and things that are happening in the industry. I know there's a lot of people who are anxiously waiting for the information I'm sure you guys are going to disclose. So generally, I know the question is just generally, what's happening? What's next? What can we look forward to?
I'll allow Melnecia to give you a little overview.
But before we do that, I don't think we had you guys introduce yourselves so everybody knows who's speaking. So yeah, let us know who's on the mic.
Good morning. My name is Melnecia Marshall, and I'm the Product Development Manager at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority.
Good morning, everyone. I am Carlene Henry-Morton, and I am the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Transport, and Ports.
All right, thank you. But Melnecia, you have been voluntold that you're going to be speaking to us first. So what's happening?
Well, let's just say at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority and the Ministry of Tourism, it has been a lesson in juggling. It has been an emotional roller coaster. We certainly understand the impact that COVID-19 has had globally and also locally. And so now the destination we opened October 2020, and with that we started with our stayover visitors coming in. And now we are on the brink, finally, of accepting our cruise visitors back to St. Kitts and Nevis, and we are really, really excited about that. It has been a really long journey, as you would have indicated in your opening. I don't know if you were spying on us, but we have had several meetings. It has been meetings after meetings.
No comment.
Protocols, trying to create protocols based on the new COVID-19 situation. We like to use the term new normal, but really and truly, this is just normal at this point in time. There's no post-COVID situation. We believe that COVID is here to stay. And so as a nation, globally, we have to do our best to see how we can cope and move forward in this new era.
Well, you guys obviously have been working, and now we are at the brink, like you mentioned, of actually accepting cruise tourists again, cruise tourism. When is the first ship due to arrive?
Well, on the 22nd of July. And let me preface what we're going to talk about so that people understand that this is going to be a very measured, very phased approach. It cannot be, as you said, a knee-jerk reaction. What we are going to be rolling out over the next couple of months, it starts now. When I tell you the journey of 1,000 miles, it begins with the first step. So this is basically the first step. And so it's going to be very incremental, very measured, because if you have too many things going on at the same time, if, God forbid, things begin to go wrong, you don't know where to look to see where it's going wrong. When you do it in a very measured way, you can kind of pinpoint, like, it seems as if this is where we're having a gap, this is where we're having some, some issues, and so you are better able to begin to fix and tweak and refine and so on. So we want the general public, this is not just for the stakeholders in tourism, but the general public to understand that there is actually a system that has been worked out and the way in which we're going to do things. There are a number of players involved. It's not just the Ministry of Tourism, it's health, it's the COVID-19 task force, it's police, it's a whole set of players that are going to have to make sure that we complement and support each other on this journey. Okay, so the first ship is on the 22nd, and I think that is the Seabourn Odyssey.
Yes.
And I will let
Odyssey.
Melnecia give you some of the details, because the SKTA, by and large, they deal with cruise. Of
Right.
course, they fall under the Ministry of Tourism, but she's in a better position to give you those finer details that are necessary at this time.
Melnecia, like you try you under the cruise ship, let's go.
Melnecia, accustomed to be on the cruise ship, trust me. No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure at all. So when the cruise ship arrives, Seabourn Odyssey, on the 22nd, to Mrs. Morton's point, normally you would have a whole bustle of activity and crowds in Bastille, and we know what the atmosphere is normally like when we have cruise ships in port. However, for this first ship, first of all, the ship normally has a capacity on any given day, not just because of COVID, but on any normal day, it has a capacity of 450 passengers.
Ooh.
The ships right now are doing their test sailings, so they're not sailing at 100% capacity. We have been advised that it's about 1/3 of the capacity because it's like a more of a pilot situation going on.
Okay.
And so as the cruise lines are testing, the destinations are testing. The ship will dock at South Friars, which is normally the place where it would normally dock when it is here on any given cruise season. And so it will be docking at South Friars. And we are going to be asking our nationals and residents to really allow us the opportunity to have this pilot cruise and see how it goes. We want to ensure that we are having the right protocols, that the protocols that that are enforced, that they're actually working, because they're in place to protect us as the nationals and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, and they're also there to protect our visitors as well, especially coming out of a outbreak that we had. We really don't want to have the destination end up in a situation where we have another outbreak and we end up in another lockdown. We really want to see how we can balance the public health and the economics, because we understand that we all have to earn a living.
Correct, correct.
And there's that old saying. I was listening this morning, because I tend to listen to your program.
Oh.
And I was listening this morning with the gentleman, Mr. Smith, who was on from Tortola. And there's an old adage, I'm one of the old heads, when your neighbor's house is on fire, you begin to wet down yours.
Yes, indeed.
So it doesn't make any sense for us to think that we are so organized that what has happened in other jurisdictions, other destinations, can't happen to us. As a matter of fact, we should use their experience as cautionary tales.
Yes.
What to avoid, to make sure that we preach and talk and emphasize and go over and over and over to avoid some of what we see has happened in other destinations, who perhaps may have opened and were not as strict as perhaps they ought to be.
Right.
And so when people begin to say, man, throw back the door, man, open the place and so on, you say, but listen, this is what we are trying to avoid.
Right. And it's interesting that you said that, and I'm happy that you did, because what that indicates to me is that even now there must be some preparations happening for the arrival of this first cruise ship. Could you enlighten us on what are some of the things that the ministry and of course the board is doing to prepare prior to the arrival?
Well, a lot of training has been taking place. So because you can't just tell people what they ought to do, but you must bring people together, hear from them, because people don't want to just be lectured. People want the opportunity to ask questions and to make sure they clarify in case they might be misunderstanding certain things. So a lot of training to make sure that when I say to you that you ought to stand 6 feet apart, this is what 6 feet would look like. When I say you ought to wash your hands, you give a demonstration of how to wash. You talk about the sanitization protocols that are to be adhered to and what they would look like, what types of products to buy and so on. So the St. Kitts Tourism Authority did a very good job over the past couple of months, and even now some retraining and so on is taking place as we are on the brink of wetting our toes back into the whole recovery process and so on. So a lot of that, there's the travel approved seals. So apart from coming and doing the training, there is certification.
All right. Okay.
Not just for the individual, for the businesses, for the buses. So after you have done the training, they are going to come to inspect your vehicle to make sure that you have implemented some of those measures that they have pointed out to you, the Velcro to separate the driver from the passenger, those kinds of things.
Right.
You must have a garbage bin on your bus. You must have special ways in which the particular passengers can feel comfortable that they have sanitized
Access
their
to
hands
sanitizer, yes,
and that
yes.
kind of thing and so on. The little messages and stickers on your bus to remind people of what they ought to do and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that have been taking place to prepare those persons who are going to be delivering goods and services to the guests, to get them understanding what actually is involved, what it would look like, not just in theory, but what it would actually look like when you deliver it on the ground.
And I want to chime in, Mrs. Morton, and indicate that it's not even, it's also for attraction sites, and we've also done this for properties as well, accommodations. So it has extended. I know many times, you hear Tourism Authority on the road, it's a lot about cruise. But I know even though we're here speaking about cruise, I just wanted to let everyone know that this program has extended beyond cruise. It's a holistic approach to the destination. So
in fact, when we leave it, Melnecia, we're going to look at 2 properties.
Yes, we're going to actually
one is cruise and one is stay over.
One is stay over. So we actually have inspections for all the properties. We have to ensure that the properties themselves have their own protocols to ensure that whenever they guests, whether it be nationals and residents or visitors, because safety is about everyone at this point in time, that they have the things that they need to have, the hand sanitizers, as Mrs. Morton would have indicated, the separation of the plexiglass at cashier stations, ensuring that they have proper protocols in place to ensure that they keep their employees and their patrons safe.
Right.
And when I say we, it's not just the Ministry of Tourism, those walkthroughs that we're going to do, the COVID-19 task force, and all of the different bodies that are represented, they would have persons at the particular properties, so that everybody has a stake in making sure.
And everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page.
Right.
Everybody has the set of criteria. You tick off as you go. If there are any questions that you need to ask the property managers and owners and so on, the persons are right there. You can ask those questions. If you see gaps, you say, listen, we would be back in the next week or 2. These are the 2 areas, 4 areas, whatever it is that you need to make sure that you bring up to par, so that conversation always must be taking place.
For sure.
Yeah, so you were saying earlier that the passengers arrive next week. What will be the process for these passengers? How will they really be experiencing St. Kitts? What is that going to look like?
So first of all, we want to make it clear that all of these passengers are fully vaccinated. That is a requirement for the destination, and the cruise ships have agreed and they have met that requirement. So crew and passengers are fully vaccinated. Now, as they explore the destination, they're going to do so in bubble vaccinated tours, meaning only operators at this point in time during this first phase, and we want to manage expectations during this first phase as we test this pilot cruise. We're only going to have fully vaccinated bubble experiences where the guests can enjoy the destination but safely going to attractions, enjoying the service of service providers like our taxi operators who are fully vaccinated, who have gone to the training, who have their travel approved seal. So that is going to be the first phase. Now, once we get out of that phase and we see herd immunity or the destination doing well in terms of managing this process, then we begin to lift the restrictions bit by bit. As Mrs. Morton indicated, it's not going to be a floodgate open. So I want to break it down a little bit more. So let's say the guests are going on an island tour. The stops on the island tour may include Caribel Batik, Brimstone Hill. Once they're going into those areas, it becomes a bubble, which means that anyone who is not vaccinated or who hasn't been trained or who doesn't have the seal, no, they will not be allowed in that bubble. So the visitors remain in that bubble for that period of time that they are here, and then once they leave, then the bubble is opened.
Okay, so quick question. So what I'm getting from that is that they are, just like they are travel approved operators, there must then be travel approved sites, meaning a taxi driver can't expect to go pull up in his backyard to show a tourist his mongoose trap because it came up in conversation.
Correct.
Okay.
So we know that those are the unique elements, that we treasured previously, but because of COVID-19, we have had to make some adjustments. And during this first phase, yes, as much as we want to show the visitors everything that we can show them, we have to put safety first in order to keep that economics coming. So no, persons will not be allowed, individuals will not be allowed to pull up on the side of the road and show them how to make fungi and fish, which would have normally been the situation, right? Not during this first phase. We're just asking everyone to cooperate with us. We're testing it, we're taking it bit by bit, easing it in, and so during this first phase, fully vaccinated bubble tours. So all of the operators, meaning the employees at the sites or the service providers, they must be vaccinated. They must have attended the training, and they must have received their travel approved seal.
So I'm listening, and it seems like you guys have a full plan already in place. But we know sometimes people tend to know what they're supposed to do and decide to do different. What do you guys have in place to keep people on the right track? Is there any sanctions or anything that would be put in place if people break the protocols that you guys have put in place?
A compliance team, these tours that are going to be taking place, they don't just go out on their own. At least one compliance team accompanies the tours, so that they are there to have that oversight and to quickly, make sure that you intervene if you see that people are not adhering strictly to what was we agreed that this is how we are going to operate. And if there are persons who are not adhering, then they would be pulled out of the bubble.
Right.
You understand what I mean? So because you, as you say, you always have to anticipate that there would be that one person who may not want to, fully comply.
Right.
And so you always have to have that particular system in place where, you can kindly ease the person aside so that the rest of the tour can go along. You understand? So those are systems, again, trying to think ahead, trying to be proactive, trying to make sure that, as far as we possibly can, we would have put systems in place to, any gaps, any weaknesses that we spot, there's something that can, move in as quickly as we possibly can to cut that short.
And we've also advised our cruise line partners that our guests must also abide by the protocols that are in place for the destination. And so I think I was watching something, I think it was the news, and 2 cruise ship passengers were actually disembarked because of breaching the protocols. So they were supposed to go out on a tour, a bubble tour. We're not the only destination doing the bubble tours. They went out on a bubble tour and they breached.
They went about the business.
Yes.
They went about the business.
And so, you saw the camera with them being rolled off with their suitcases. Point blank. You breached, you cannot come
There's
back.
consequences.
There are consequences.
Right.
And like Mrs. Morton was saying earlier, that I think this isolated approach helps to really see these errors, because I think you could control things better. Because I think if everything was to open all at once, that might have been missed.
That could complicate things for you. Too many pots on the stove at the same time. All of them start bubbling over at the same time. Which one do you prioritize?
Right.
If you have a few, you could easily say, let me move that aside, put this here, you understand, add a little water to that. So I'm using the cooking analogy for those persons who are cooks, so that you understand that it gives you that leeway to better manage what is going on.
We're doing a lot of talk about what is expected of the persons directly involved in the industry, to operators, people who are at some of the sites, as well as even the tourists and the cruise ships coming in. What's our role as the general public, especially given the fact that we are now just coming out of lockdown and stuff like that? What role do we have to play in ensuring that this goes as well as possible?
Well, the ball is literally in our court, as a destination, literally. This phase will last as long as people are willing to comply and to adhere and to demonstrate that in good faith we understand what is going on, and we know that the medium to long-term benefits to be reaped if we, just do what we ought to do at this stage. So we want to appeal to the general public. That is what this is all about, right? And I'm sure Melnecia will add her own little 2 pence to it. This is to bring the general public up to speed on exactly what is going on so that people can situate in their heads the context in which we are working. Their role is when you hear that a ship is in, if there are certain sites and attractions that are being used and you are not part of the persons delivering the service and the goods, do not go there at that particular time,
Right.
because the environment has to be absolutely controlled. In case anything happens, you know down to the last name exactly who the persons were who were at that particular site.
So
you
I
have to do contact tracing, for
Right.
example.
So, for instance, I may be some sort of peddler. For instance, I might be selling natural juices or whatever. I can't expect to see the tourist bus pass going to a particular site in my village and just run up there because I'm not selling passion fruit and lemonade.
Not at this time.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
at this time. We are really appealing. This is a pilot coming out of COVID-19. We are really trying to balance the health and the economics. We understand that it has been almost 18 months since some persons may have worked, but at the same time, we can't rush into it. We have to ensure that we take our time. We have things in place to prevent any outbreaks as much as we possibly can, because if we do not do that, we can set the destination back for a number of years, not months, but years. We have a situation where another destination, I'm not going to say the name on the air, where
Tell me here afterwards.
they were ready to take cruise ship passengers, ready, and I mean had ships lined up, and they recently have had an outbreak, and as a result of that, they have had to lock down again, and they are unable to take their ships.
Oh,
So the
wow.
destination has once again been set back. And we learned that just this week, I think it was, when we were having some conversations with some of the cruise lines. And so it is still a very fluid situation. And so we are asking the general public, as the tours are going out, in the vaccinated bubble tours, in the restricted areas, we are asking for our nationals, please do not access these sites. Do not access these sites during the days when we have these vaccinated bubble tours coming out. It's the same thing with the hotels. We have quarantine hotels. We know we can't go to the quarantine hotels. There are vacation in place hotels. We can't go to the vacation in place hotels. So it's the very same approach that we are taking for cruise. Starting out small, and as we ease the restrictions, then of course more of the community can become more involved.
Right. So I think that's important to note, the fact that we all have a part to play in ensuring that this pilot goes as good as possible and allow us to learn and continually adapt so that we could then move on and open up even more. We spoke about the cruise ship that's coming. I think that's next Wednesday.
Next Thursday.
Next
the
Thursday.
22nd? Yes,
The
next
22nd.
Thursday.
Yeah. So
Thursday.
is there any other ships coming in the short term, or is it just the one?
Yes, we anticipate we have a ship scheduled for the 29th, the Celebrity Summit, and we do have ships scheduled for August.
Okay.
And so we have to look at what happens call by call and just keep taking those positive steps upwards. I am confident, Mrs. Morton and I are confident, the Tourism Authority is confident that once we all play our role, we can continue to see that positive step forward. We really want to ensure that when we resume cruise, we do a really good job of it and ensuring that our nationals and residents, I keep repeating it, we want to keep our nationals and residents safe, but we also want to balance the economics.
Right. And even just so we have an amazing product here in the island of St. Kitts. I mean, we want to allow people to enjoy it just as much as we do, and so understanding that this is how we get to that point. Is very important to allow us to do so. So everyone, we've been asking that we all play our part, and so here we go. We on the road.
Yes.
Well, let me say we're on the sea. We're on the sea. So guys, just before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners and the viewers?
I just want to add that also part of the preparations for the cruise coming in, we've also had several meetings this week. It's been a rough week, a really hectic week, because we wanted to ensure that we met with our focus groups, our touch areas. So all of our vendors, the primates, the aloe, these are persons who have really been hurting during COVID-19, and we didn't want to just say, okay, our ship is coming in, just leave it alone. So we had to explain to them the same way that we're explaining here on the radio. This is how it is. This is going to be the approach. This is going to be the strategy to ensure that they understand where we are going. We did the same thing for our tour operators. We are having meetings with our taxi and tour bus operators next week. We are going to have a general cruise stakeholder meeting next week as well. So we are ensuring that we have that consultation across the board, so that we have all of our stakeholders involved and engaged positively.
All right. Thank you so much. Mrs. Morton, any last words?
Yes, I want in advance to thank all those persons to whom we are appealing, to let them know that we understand that people, are rearing and ready to go, but we want, again, to thank them for their understanding and the confidence, express that confidence in them, that they are going to abide and adhere, and they are going to give the process that opportunity that it needs to work. Because when all is said and done, it is to everybody's benefit that we make sure that this is a success, so that incrementally we can begin to add other tours and services and goods and expand, so that more people are able to begin to make a decent living again from tourism and from cruise.
All right, thank you guys so much. Guys, ship coming back, Yes, the ship about to land.
No, we said coming ashore. They're coming ashore.
They're coming ashore. Yes, I was
Leave the remixes, please.
I was remixing this. Okay. But yeah, guys, I think there's a big part of the population that is very excited to see these developments. Thank you guys for all the work that you guys have been doing and trying to put all this together. We understand that it must have been a Herculean task, but of course, with ladies like yourself involved, it's nothing that you guys can handle, and we're now seeing the results. So thank you guys for coming.